So today's webcast is Introduction to RevOps for B2B businesses. We're very excited that you could be joining us today. I hope that you get a lot of great information out of this webcast. And so let's just dive right on in. So in today's webcast, we are going to be going over what is RevOps exactly, or revenue operations. It's a buzzy term. A lot of people are talking about it. If you follow our thought leadership, you know we don't believe RevOps to be a new practice. So we are going to get in a little bit of myth busting today as well. Why RevOps is not software or SaaS and many other things that it is not. We're also going to talk about what it is, but sometimes it's a little easier to talk about what things are not. We're also going to talk about technology and what role technology plays in revenue operations, how tech enables revenue operations, but also how it can hold you back. So we're going to go through the ins and outs of technology and what the role that it plays. And then also moving into, once we get past the idea of tech, moving into teams and how you get your team to buy into this idea. And here's a spoiler alert for you. None of this is really new. It's like getting your team to buy into anything, but we're going to talk about some tips and tricks of how you get everyone around this idea. And then lastly, it would not be an Illuminate webcast if we were not giving you something to get started right away. So we're going to give you day one actionable steps just to get you started with RevOps, no matter where you are in your digital transformation journey. So that is what we are going to be doing today. Let's jump right in. Let's get into the voice behind the webcast. Hi, my name is Christina May. I founded Illuminate in 2013. We are turning 9 this year, and we are a strategic revenue operations company. RevOps is what we do. It's what we've always done. So we're going to be getting into that. So hopefully at the end of today's webcast, you'll really understand truly what RevOps is, but also what we do as a company and how it works for you. I am so passionate about this subject. I have been working in the real estate, construction, tourism, entertainment industries prior to starting to Illuminate. Revenue ops has always been part of my life, and I am so passionate about helping businesses, particularly B2B businesses, create revenue systems and scale. And a few fun facts about me, because it's always good to know someone more than what they do. I am a beekeeper. In fact, I used to play the violin with the local symphony where I live in Maryland. I have retired in the past few years. And I also volunteer with my dog. She is a certified therapy dog. Her name is Lucy. We go around and do reading programs and things like that. So outside of RevOps, those are things that really mean a lot to me. So just a few housekeeping things as we get started. So if you have any questions, feel free to pop them in the Q&A. Or in the chat. We have a Q&A section at the end of this webcast for you to put in your questions, and I am happy to answer any of those for you. Also, during the webcast, if for some reason you lose internet connectivity, somebody needs a signature for delivery, anything that comes up, know that we will be sending this out after the webcast today, and you will get access to the recording and the slides, as well as the resources that we're going to go over today. So feel free if something should come up. All right, let's dive on in. So the big question, RevOps, revenue operations, what is it really? All right, it's about value. So not everyone agrees with me on this, but I always anchor back to the idea that we are all in business for a purpose, okay? And I'm not talking about a kumbaya purpose, although yours may be, but it is really not just about creating customers for the sake of creating customers. So there is a Peter Drucker quote that I like to pick on, that he said that there's only one definition of a business's purpose, and that is to create a customer. And I think he is just dead wrong. Well, he's dead anyway, but he is dead wrong. The only valid definition that I believe of a business's purpose is to create value. Now let's talk about value, because for many, a business's revenue from selling to customers is one of the results of that value, but it's not the sole purpose of a business. The creation and exchange of value from customers, employees, and the greater community in which our businesses exist determines what a company is. We are not simply just in business just to create customers just on this hamster wheel. That is not what we're here to do. What goods and services your businesses provide doesn't matter. Instead, it is the alignment of the resources to create a continuous value through our businesses that does matter. And when I'm talking about a continuous cycle, I'm talking about a cycle of value to your employees, value to your customers, value to the community that you serve. Your community could be your geographic community. Your community could be your industry. You can define that however you want to, but that's really why we're here. And so therefore, really, I believe a company has one purpose for these three aligned audiences: your employees, your customers, and your community. So if that is our definition of why we exist, there is only one practice that addresses the alignment of organizational resources for the benefit of those three audiences. And spoiler alert, that is revenue operations. So let's get into RevOps. So RevOps means revenue operations. And what RevOps does is it creates operational alignment between all stakeholders, and we just identified them, the employees, customers, and community, to accelerate this cycle of value generation. The more value we create, the more revenue we create. So when I talk about alignment and what that means, there are certain things you're going to hear me repeat constantly in this webcast. It is alignment from a single source of truth. We're going to get into that single source of truth here in just a couple minutes. From within your organization. And the single source of truth is data. Okay? And we cannot have multiple sources of data that are all just completely disconnected from each other. We all need to be working from the same playbook. And that is what we're talking about, single source of truth. And that single source of truth can be leveraged to align customer-focused functions. What are customer-focused functions? Those focused functions are marketing, sales, service, and operations. And it does not matter if you are a product. If you create a product, you're a manufacturer, you're a distributor, you're distributing the product, you are professional services or a service company like we are, or if you build things, you make things. It does not matter what that is. You have these four functions within your organization that are all aligned around the customer: marketing, sales, service, and by service, I mean customer service, and operations. And then lastly, it is alignment around the singular company mission that you have measured by revenue. So single source of truth, aligned functions around a singular company mission that we measure through revenue. That is what RevOps is. So let's take the is and isn't. So RevOps is, number one, it is cross-functional. It is the alignment of teams within an organization, and we've talked about these already: marketing, sales, service, and operations. If these teams are not working together, they are not working from a single source of truth, you are going to experience a lot of friction and a lot of challenges. So it is cross-functional. It is not singular to one part of your business. RevOps is also all about transparency. It's about transparency within your organization, goals and data. So it does your company no good if you are not transparent as a leader about what the goals are for your company. That's something that everyone up and down the line should understand, of what you guys are working towards, what your mission is, what your goals are. That could be revenue-based, that could be mission-based. that should be transparent, and it should be measured by and fueled by data. And let's just be clear, a single source of data, that single source of truth. So speaking of that single source of truth, what is that really? That's data sources and customer records. And we're really going to dive into what a single source of truth looks like. It's a single source of information. You cannot have multiple sets of books. That gets you in a lot of trouble. So why do we hear so much about RevOps? And we hear so often that a lot of focus on software, or a lot of focus on training, or a lot of focus on just a particular part. Why is it not defined in this way? RevOps is not software. So there are a lot of software companies out there right now. A lot of them are customer relation management software, CRMs. They may be marketing suites. They may be sales software, might be ticketing customer service software, might be integration software. They're all out there trying to claim this buzzword and that they are RevOps. Software plays a role in technology with enabling RevOps, but it is not RevOps in a box. That does not exist. Also, RevOps is not a single position, such as operating officer, or it's just for ops. It's got ops in the word. So a lot of times people think, oh, it's operating. No, it's not a single position, not a revenue operations officer, though that person may be responsible for enabling RevOps within an organization. It's not owned by one person or function. RevOps is also not a training program. RevOps is not the function of one department, so it's not just sales. A lot of times people make the mistake of thinking that RevOps, because it's got the word revenue in it, it's owned by the sales department. That's incorrect. It's not a guru. It's not software as a service or reoccurring revenue model. This is also something I see a lot, where they think at RevOps, because it's about creating efficiencies down the line and enabling a single source of truth in your organization, that is something that is a cycle. And therefore, because it's a cycle, they equate that to a recurring revenue model. Could not be further than from what really RevOps really is. It is not software as a service. It is not a recurring revenue model. It's not a person. It's not a trading program. It's not something you can buy off the shelf. So now you are armed with knowing what RevOps is not and what RevOps is. So let's talk about, now that we know what it is, how technology plays a role, since we just beat up on technology so much about and what it isn't category. It plays a role, and what it really can do to enable your organization's revenue operations, and how it can actually also hurt you. So let's talk about the role. Technology's role in RevOps is about creating a single source of truth. So a single source of truth is one integrated data set that powers multiple functions and teams. A lot of times this is a CRM platform, but you cannot have multiple sets of data that people are working off of if you're trying to get them to achieve one goal, and that data does not say the same thing across all teams. That is a recipe for disaster. Technology's role also comes into creating transparency. That single source of truth enables teams to collaborate from the same information source. And that is really the power of technology and RevOps. It increases accountability because everyone's working from a single source of truth. You have data visibility to all parties within your company. So there's no one's got a spreadsheet that they won't share, or, the sales teams holding back information that maybe the service team and the marketing team could use. All of that is an open book with technology, and if it's enabling that single source of truth. It also creates efficiencies. With that, we can do a lot with automation to decrease manual input, to fix mistakes. We can, a lot of manual entry and things that take your team away from doing what they do best. We can do a lot of that from a single source of truth through technology and automation. So let's talk about how it can hurt. When you don't have a single source of truth, when you have multiple or duplicate systems, many companies use separate systems for those 4 functions that we've been talking about. Marketing has its own software suite. Sales has its own suite, which a lot of times the software suites that they're using are perfect for their use. So sales may like to use Salesforce to manage their functions and pipeline. And marketing might like to use something like HubSpot to manage the website and generate leads. And then service might be using a totally different ticketing system, and those systems are not talking together. And then operations, which might be using a totally separate ERP or shipping system, etc. So if there's no single source of truth, you start having multiple and duplicate systems that aren't talking to each other. It's a lot to manage. And then you get errors in data mapping sometimes within a single source of truth. So let's say that you get everything talking, but you do not have a defined blueprint for data fields. Those data fields are not, it might mean customer ID in one system might mean company record, and customer ID in another system might be talking not about a company, but an individual record. If those are mapped incorrectly, you're going to have company names syncing over into first name, last name records for individuals. You can see how the errors can abound. Undetected human error. This happens all the time. Spelling, caps lock, misuse of fields. So sometimes someone doesn't have a field that they need and they need to put information into a system, so they start using an unused field. I have seen many a fax field used for many, many things in systems. Marketing of software services also can hurt. We've talked a little bit about this already, but out of the box solutions, one size fits all these integrations that they say that are just, click of a button and they work. Unfortunately, many of these just don't work that way. There is no such thing as out of the box and you're ready to go in 30 minutes. So unfortunately, a lot of RevOps and digital transformation projects get started, but then they get to an abrupt stop and a lot of frustration because you went into the project thinking that it was going to be fast and easy. And unfortunately, when you really get into it, you found out that it has to be customized to you. And then implementation versus training. A lot of times, if you do have implementation, something is skipped when it comes to the training perspective. You are only halfway there. Once you've moved into the implementation phase, it is no good if you just rolling this out to a team without a training program. They understand how powerful it is and how much easier it's going to make their lives. So unfortunately, technology really can hurt, and it's good to know these pitfalls ahead of time. So let's take all the things we just talked about, which are on the left-hand side on the red, and how we can turn it into something positive. So no single source of truth with multiple and duplicate systems. You can create a single source of truth. You can use one CRM to power multiple systems. And really the architecture of that technology stack for your RevOps processes should be coming from one conclusive customer record, not multiple customer records for the same customer. Should really be consolidated with that firm foundation of one CRM to power multiple systems. That takes care of having multiple duplicate systems and no single source of truth. Errors in data mapping can be completely avoided, provided you slow down to actually blueprint all of the fields that are talking between systems. Implementation should include documentation also of standards and practices, how you're going to use the data, what the fields are defined and used for. Slowing down and working with your team to define all of those will save you all those errors in the future. And speaking of undetected human error, a lot of that can be avoided with automation. We can use programmatic AI to help ease the burden of data cleanup. So someone leaves the caps lock on, somebody puts in an email address that's not valid, etc. There are automations, standard automations that can be programmed into your CRM to really clean those things up for you and take the burden of, having someone assigned to that task. Marketing of software services. We talked a little bit about how this can be a little misleading. Understand first off that RevOps isn't software. There is no out-of-the-box solution that doesn't require a custom implementation for your business. Remember, your business is unique. It's creating value for customers that is unique to them. They're not able to get it anywhere else. Same thing when it comes to RevOps. The RevOps implementation is unique to your company. So anything that you do when trying to implement a single source of truth to start a RevOps program should include customized implementation so that your data fields are mapped, your standards and practices are documented, and you're creating a true single source of truth without errors. And then lastly, always, always, always document and train. Implementation means nothing if there isn't documentation so that everyone can refer back to how the implementation works, how the software works, and training so that your team can make the most of this investment. So when we're talking about technology, that's how we can turn that around. So again, RevOps single source of truth is a CRM. It is a united platform to help you grow better and gain access to the foundational tools your teams need. It unifies your marketing, sales, and service databases into one place. So everybody is looking at one singular customer record. If you think of like the game of telephone, the customer, when they call to your business, interact with your website, interact with email with somebody or with chat, they do not see the different departments that make up your company. They see one company. So it should feel like it's one conversation, not several completely different conversations. That's what this single source of truth enables you to do, and it's customer focused. So it's record management, it's company records, it's form inputs, it's tickets, it's integration into your ERP. It really unifies all that customer record information into one place so you can, anyone from sales to service to ops, leadership, anyone can log in and see a customer's full journey. It gets context also in the conversation between teams. So when someone calls about a billing issue, the person in billing can see everything that has happened to that customer in their customer journey through their activity, what pages they've looked at on the website, what products they have purchased. All of those things are there to help the service rep really solve the problem for the customer. So this is incredibly customer focused. And RevOps also, through the single source of truth, allows you to create efficiencies, organize things, track communications. Really, this is where the value comes in, is being able to apply automations and being able from one single source of truth. And when it comes to data, having a reporting dashboards, being able to report from a single set of numbers, being able to automate emails, being able to view surveys from one record, being able to manage reviews, complaints. I mean, I could go on and on and on what this can do, but it truly, truly all starts with the single source of truth. So now let's get into the team. You want to get RevOps and you want to get a single source of truth into your company and really start to move forward with this. Who's involved and how do you get buy-in? So your RevOps team has to include administrative leadership. That means the executive level has to have buy-in and has to be transparent with organizational goal setting. That if you cannot achieve that first piece, you will not have a successful implementation of RevOps in your organization. And then the four different components of RevOps: operations, service, sales, and marketing, all need to be involved. So that includes management, and it also involves people who are actually boots on the ground implementing this and using this. So when you're pulling together your RevOps team, it's not just a leadership function. You need to include everyone in this, or at least a representative of the group. So let's say that your service department, your customer service department obviously has a manager, but then let's say you have 20 people on that team. You may choose one or two people from that team to help with this RevOps implementation. Same thing for marketing, sales, and operations. Really important that leadership is being transparent and that these are the people involved. So how do you get team buy-in? Again, leadership has to be committed to transparency, goals, and data. So I'm not saying that you have to be open up the books here, but you have to be very transparent with the data that is in the single source of truth. So that's customer records, that's sales, that is reviews, customer service tickets, all of that needs to be available to everyone in marketing, sales, service, and operations. Team input. Getting buy-in requires team participation. It requires honesty about the pain points of the day-to-day job. What is working and what isn't working, specifically to technology issues. What do I like about the software suite that we're using? What do I hate about the software suite that we're using? What am I missing? What data am I missing that I don't have that I can't leverage? Communication issues between teams, between individual members on a team, and also between the team and the customer. Where are we getting friction points in our communications? And then let's talk about customer issues, things that customers complain about or have issues with. Really try to focus into around things that are usually pretty preventable. A lot of these have to do with someone getting back to them, someone having accurate information. When they call in, getting routed to the right person or that person being able to help them. No one likes being transferred 6 times to get their question taken care of. So take a hard look at all of those issues, document them, and be honest about them. Once you have that done, then let's be really, really honest also about what implementation will look like. Make sure as a leader that you allocate the appropriate time for this. Do not just kind of gloss over this and make this seem like this is going to be easy. Full disclosure, this isn't going to be super, super easy. It's going to be a little bit disruptive to your team, and you just need to be upfront about that. No change is seamless. So I hate to say no pain, no gain, but it truly does with any operational change within your company. There is always a disruption period. Be honest about that disruption period and try to plan for it and be empathetic to it. And please communicate it out to everyone on the team so that not just those that are part of the RevOps team, but their teams going back and communicating the information. No one likes to have technology challenges when you're trying to create a single source of truth. Make sure you dedicate the right resources: software investment, implementation investment, and training investment. Do not skip implementation investment and training investment. Buying software, thinking it's going to work out of the box, and shoving that downstream on a team only for them to get frustrated with it is just a loss of time, and it's super costly. So just avoid this mistake altogether. All right, ready? We are to the point where I'm going to give you the actionable day one things that you can do to implement RevOps within your company. We're going to go over our RevOps readiness quiz and our tech stack audit. So, are you RevOps ready? Ask yourselves these questions as we go through. We actually have an interactive version of this quiz. It's free, it's not gated, and the link is available in the resources section at the end of this webcast. So just follow along here as we're going. So if you're RevOps ready, ask yourself one of these 5 questions. 1, how willing is your team to embrace and use new software? Are you eager to move into new systems, softwares, technologies to create that single source of truth? Or, do we have hesitation around that or fear? Is there acceptance or excitement around change? Every organization is a little bit different. So sometimes teams are super, super hesitant of change. They've been using the same thing for years. Some organizations get excited, but a little bit, struggle on the widespread adoption. Or we're excited, we're tech savvy, we're curious, tell us a little bit more. Or you feel like your team already has this already, that you're ready to go. This feels great. You have leading edge technology. You've been through a successful implementation. You've already got that single source of truth. Second, how proficient is your team with customer relationship management system, your CRM? So everyone has a CRM, whether if you could be an Excel sheet, that's possible, or you could have a full-blown CRM like HubSpot, Salesforce, Zoho, etc. There are lots of CRMs out there, and there's no right or wrong one. It's just, do you have one? Are you familiar with the technology? Or we don't have anything at all. We use Post-it notes. You're using a manual system like a spreadsheet. You've got a CRM, but you feel like you're only leveraging part of it, or you feel like the data is maybe lacking or having some issues. And then, or lastly, you guys are great. You're rock stars. You use a CRM. You're getting the most from it. Congratulations if you're there. That is awesome. Moving on to number 3. Actually, we're going to pop over number 3. Number 5 is your team able to track your leads and attribute where they originated. As you make new sales, can you tell where the leads came from, to calculate how much money they're spending to bring in new business? This one's really important. This kind of gets more into reporting. And then, can your website collect information for customers who have quotes or set appointments? This is really testing how digitally enabled your processes are, which is a really good indicator of how RevOps ready you are. So if you are ready to take the quiz, the link is provided here, and what this does, if you want, it will give you your score. Again, this isn't gated. And if you do want more information, you can submit your email address to get a customized RevOps readiness roadmap based on your results. So whether you're just getting your toe in the water, you really don't have a CRM, you don't have a single source of truth, you really don't know where to get started. Maybe you fall into the middle where you have some of these things, you have a CRM, you're using it a little bit. You feel like your team is trainable, but you're not quite there yet. Maybe you feel like you've got some duplicated systems in your technology stack. So, what are the next steps there? Or third, you guys have everything in place, you're ready to go, and you're just really ready to take it to the next level. So feel free to click on the link. Again, we will be sharing this at the end of the webcast, and see where you land. So Q&A time for anyone who has questions. I'm going to take a look here and answer any that you have during this webcast. Feel free to post them, and we will get those questions answered. All right, we'll take this one first. Do you recommend any particular CRM? That is a great question. So any particular CRM is really, it depends on your use case. Again, I do not feel that strongly one way or the other for one particular CRM or another. It really depends on your company and your company's adoption of the CRM. So it depends on the size, it depends on your industry. There's lots of really good CRMs out there. What I do suggest is, if you don't have a CRM, look at the most powerful function of the marketing, sales, and service arm of your company. And if they're already using something, take a look there. If they're not, which is the strongest to you? Is the marketing department or your marketing function really, really strong? Then I would do a marketing first CRM. Is your sales function really, really strong versus your marketing function? Then maybe let's move towards a sales first CRM. Each one kind of has its pros and cons, and each one has its strengths. So, or maybe you want everything all in one. So for those instances, so if you were a sales first organization, I would definitely take a look at HubSpot, and I would definitely take a look at Salesforce. If you are a marketing first organization, I would also take a look at HubSpot. Salesforce has, others. It has Pardo that goes with it. So you might want to take a look there. There's lots of different ones out there. Full disclosure, we don't subscribe to any one, but our company uses HubSpot as its base CRM, and it works really well for mid-market, and it works really well for B2B and B2C. So if you are what would be considered to be a middle market company, it's very scalable. If you're not a middle market company and you're starting out, they have freemium versions. And I really like to recommend freemium versions for anyone who doesn't want to totally rebuild their system again in the future. So if you start with a kind of what I'll call CRM light, and as your company grows, you can grow into it. So that is a really great question. Okay. Oh, another good question. The question is, when I'm putting together my RevOps team, should I also include anyone from the products department? That is a really great question. So I'm really focused in RevOps, really focused on the 4 functions: marketing, sales, service, and operations. Products and services really don't, I would never dissuade anyone if they're going to be interfacing with the CRM and the single source of truth for their particular function. But it depends. So if everyone in product and R&D is going to be gleaning something from the single source of truth, maybe they're going to be using reports on surveys for product usage and customer satisfaction for product to inform new products or inform improvements to an existing product or service. It's not to say not to include them. Whatever we really though focus on, and where the benefit really does fall, is really getting alignment between marketing, sales, operations, and service. So it's your call, but those 4 definitely have to be at the table. I do subscribe to the Jeff Bezos theory of, if there's more than 2 pizzas can't feed the team, then the team's too big. I absolutely agree with that. So make sure that you're including those 4 functions. And if the 2 pizza rule, you still have a couple of slices left over and you want to include product or service leads, and by service, I mean the actual service, not customer service, then definitely include them. The more the merrier. Just stick to the two pie rule, so to speak. All right, great. One of great questions today. So leaving you with a couple of resources, the RevOps Readiness Quiz and Roadmap. Again, we're going to be sharing this after the webcast today. It'll be available to you. It's on our website. To take the quiz, figure out where you are on the RevOps readiness scale, and a roadmap for taking next steps at your company. And then if you feel like you are ready to get started, the first thing we typically do to get started is we recommend a tech audit. And for those listeners of our webinar today, we do a limited taste tech audit, so to speak, called the small plate version, that is free, no obligation, and no charge, where we walk you through, we take a look from a 30,000 foot level, your technology stack, and see where there's opportunity for you to help you create that single source of truth, and also opportunities to really get alignment between those pieces of technology so that you can get started on your RevOps journey. So if you would like to explore a tech audit, there's a link here for you to schedule a quick discovery call with us, and we can give you more information about it. So thank you so much for your time today. Really appreciate everyone's questions. Hope you learned a lot about what RevOps is and isn't, and really excited for you to get on your RevOps journey.